Eyes on the Sky, Feast Readers. This is a talk with Chad Heins on site at the Hawkwatch. He's very excited about what he calls the wing window in late September when thousands of hawks, raptors, will pass their way overhead right on top of Bethany Lutheran College. Get a little bit of a glimpse into this brilliant mind.
Sign. Oh, nice. Look at this eagle right here. Oh. Jason, look up left. Oh. That's nice. What was that? That was a juvenile eagle. Bald eagle. Bald eagle? Yep. Second year bird.
I gotta go get a drink of water after Mark.
Oh, that's okay. I got it covered, but it's just nice to have a bird again. We haven't had one in a while. I'm just praying that we're going to get a big string of broadwings for you.
For me?
Yeah, for you. I've seen it. That's exciting for me every time, but...
Yeah, and this is, you said, kind of prime time.
Yep. We are officially in the wing window, as we call it. So that means that birds are moving south. So yesterday, if you were at the Detroit River Hawkwatch, they recorded over 23,000 in one day. So that's the excitement of broadwings, is that they come in big groups.
And that's okay. So that's upstream of you.
That is to our east.
And they're traveling.
They're going south. So all of those birds are gonna. So if you look at all the Hawkwatch sites across the eastern U.S., which is where broadwings migrate through. You've got smaller count sites in Maine and Pennsylvania that also had thousands of broadwings yesterday. So, you know, if we take a snapshot latitudinally, there's a whole bunch of birds going through all of those areas right now. So those 24, let's call rounded up, those 24,000 broadwings that went through Detroit yesterday, in the next 3-4 days, they will make the journey between where they started out there. They'll probably run into the Appalachians and cruise down the western side of that. And then they will eventually, they don't like to go over the Gulf of Mexico. There's no warm updrafts over water. Water tends to reflect heat, not create heat. Here's a gull. Franklin's gull. Yep. And so they go around that. So then those birds, it's kind of fun. You can look at the count site in Corpus Christi. And so you wait 3-4 days and then boom, there it is. You'll see those 24,000 have gathered up with the 4,000 from that site and the 6,000 from that site. And so Corpus Christi will have a day where they've got 50,000 broadwings that are passing through.
Corpus Christi is in
Texas. Coastal Texas.
So are we generally following Mississippi?
Some birds are following the Mississippi. So they've done all sorts of studies on these raptors, and they're following leading lines. So they follow a couple of different things. One is rivers. That's probably mostly navigational, i.e. it looks like a highway, I should follow that, and it's Mississippi's going south kind of thing. It's a sight line. But there are other birds that are following mountain ridges. And it's not so much about the topography as something that they recognize, but rather any wind that hits against that is directed upward. And it's an updraft. So they get a lift. So some of it is, it's kind of like there's a sight line component to it in that they know that that's what they should do. But part of it also is it actually makes their long distance migration more economical energy-wise. So a lot of these
birds done this before.
That's the fun thing. Adults, yes. And juveniles.
How old is an adult?
No, 1 year.
An adult is 1 year.
They're 1 year when they come back in the spring. they can breed.
Okay. And
The
so
young of the year
what's
have
the-
never done this before.
I'm sure the answer varies, but how long can we expect, let's say, a raptor to live?
In captivity, it's not too unusual to have them live 20 to 30 years.
My goodness.
But, hold on a second. I don't know what that bird was. But a wild bird, I mean, dumb things happen, accidents happen, you get hit by cars and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Probably 10 years or less. Yeah, so these birds are coming back. So they might come back multiple times. They might not necessarily summer in the same location. So they might go back to kind of the same general area. But sometimes if they come back to that particular area, for example, and there's been a forest fire, that's not a practical nesting site. So they have to go and find a suitable nesting area that might be somewhere different. So when they come back in the spring, it's like they're coming back to a certain level of uncertainty, you know?
They come back and then they have to look around.
Correct. So in the spring when they come back normally about mid-April we start to see broadwings going back north.
Well, you understand why I ask, because you started describing the visual pathways or the updrafts, and I guess what I'm wondering is whether the memory is in the individual or it's somehow past.
Great question. So let's imagine you're a young bird from this year. You were raised in the North Woods on a diet of squirrels and chipmunks and other small things. And now
I have the memory of the squirrel in me.
now I've got now there's a certain restlessness that starts to settle in, especially in your parents. And you know, these are birds that have had to learn how to hunt on their own. They've got to learn how to fly around a little bit. Sometimes we see young broadwings. They do nest in the Minnesota River Valley, and sometimes we'll see them doing test flights. You know, they're flying around. They're looking for stuff. They might make a go at it, but they're still learning, and they're trying to figure out how this is all supposed to work and everything. But at some point here, all of a sudden, the parents are going to get up and they're going to leave, and they're going to go away. And I couldn't tell you if the young birds are just like, oh, here goes mom and dad. This is a broadwing hawk, by the way. So this is one of the ones that's going south.
Okay.
That's our first broadwing of the day. So, and I was just watching these gulls fly catch over here, and see that bird is kind of keying in on them and recognizing there must be a thermal there because those gulls are going up. So he's kind of headed toward them.
Hawk is learning from the
Yep.
birds.
And now he's going to take a couple of spirals. That's an elevation gain. So he found a warm spot over the YFAC or the Sports and Fitness Center or the parking lot over there. And he's thinking that's a good spot. So he's just going to he's going up. You can kind of see it's a slow thing, but the reason they spiral is that tells you they're on an elevator and they want to stay in that column. That's a warbler, by the way. I don't know what kind that was. Yeah, of sorts.
Nature provides this phenomenon that they can ride.
Right. Well, and it's so much about. It's not that
I looked away and now I can't find them.
Just wait for him to turn.
All I see are floaters in my vision.
I know. Okay.
Oh, there, I see it.
Yep. See, and they'll do that. If they catch you an angle like this, you have a hard time seeing it. If they bank like that, you can see him. So now he's set.
Okay, so you were right. He's heading over towards the gulls.
Oh, he's going to take another lap here.
He's a little more
He likes that thermal, and that's a hot spot, you know. And the neat thing is, this is the way I think about it too, is if the whole planet was hot, if everything always was an updraft, it wouldn't work. You have to have hot spots and cool spots. You have to have an area where this hot air contrasts with the cold air that's immediately next to it. So a grassy field next to a parking lot, one of those is a hot air going up. The other one actually has a cooling effect. And it's the unevenness that actually creates the movement of the air and therefore the lift and the propulsion for them to go where they need to go. But you're right, like right now, gone. Can't see it.
Okay, but what's the white one there? Oh,
that's a plane.
Airplane. Yeah, it's too. You can tell by its activity. activity.
It's fixed wing, yeah. And see, now I don't know what our Broadwing's doing, but our Broadwing's just up and right from the plane. And he's drifting now left.
And I lost him.
He's over the right-hand side of that ash tree.
Just seeing floaters.
Yep, that's okay.
Okay, so you were telling the tale of the young hawk.
Okay, so Mom and Dad get up and leave. Now, I don't know, I'm not on their breeding grounds. I don't know if they just basically go, oh, Mom and Dad are going, we need to go with them. That might be the instance in some cases.
That's the way you're raised, right? Like they teach you how to hunt, they teach you where everything is.
Right, but...
everything you know comes from Mom and Dad.
But I don't know for fact, like for example, it's that the parents are like, okay, it's time to go. And they call and they kind of demand that the young follow them. Or if you got all these other birds, that what's happening is as they're coming south, they gather into bigger numbers. You can imagine as you go further north, it gets colder sooner. The light is diminishing faster. And it's really the amount of daylight that is triggering inside these birds in their hormones. It's triggering them to start heading south. So we always think of like cold temperatures are the thing that's stimulating, but it's not. It's actually how much light is available. As the photo period goes down, what happens is the reproductive organs shrink. As the reproductive organs shrink, they're not producing hormones as strongly, and therefore this desire at that point. Axel, I got another one here, pretty birch, just above it. This is another broadwing. I don't know, this might be the same bird. So now this one is set. This is probably that same bird. So.
What's above the ash? Or
yeah,
above the maple. What's above the maple?
There's a gull.
Okay.
And that's a Franklin's gull. And then here's the broadwing. And you can see now,
I see it now,
there's no soar. Now I'm going in this direction. And now he's decided, and mind you, this is an individual, not a flock, this is an individual that's made a decision that he doesn't want to go that way. He wants to stay close to this river valley. So he's just basically riding down the ridge.
So that behavior changed. He was corkscrewing, and now he's just soaring along the ridge.
So now he's just going to glide. Now the question
tracks.
is, what is he gliding to? What is it that's drawn him to it? Now it could be that what we can't see is over there. There's a whole flock of them. And he can see them because he's got better vision than you and I. And we can't see because we can't see past the trees. But there might be a whole group of hawks that's over there. And he's like, oh, there's my kin. And
found him.
Yeah, and I found him. So now I'm going to go over there and kind of join up with them. So what we have
You're speculating on motive.
Well, each individual bird is making decisions on its own. And we can actually watch that. We can actually see these birds making decisions as they go. Like, who gets to decide? Well, they do. And what's happening is they slowly aggregate. So as they're coming south now, stimulated by less photoperiod, they're starting to head south, they start to aggregate. So we end up with more and more individuals. And now, a lot of those young birds are mixed in with the adult birds. That's what we see. And they're just kind of going. Do they know where they're going? No. No clue. They've never done this before. And they're basically using visual cues and following what the other birds are doing. And so if all the birds go that way, they don't know anything. You know, stick with the wisdom and go with them.
They might cue on mom and dad. They might cue on somebody else.
At some point, if they get separated,
we are doing this.
There's a we. And so it becomes, we kind of know vaguely where we're going and how we're doing it. And, birds get lost. So we end up with weird situations where, broadwings actually are, once September is done, most of the broadwings are through. But we see individuals sometimes in October who got left behind, dawdled a little bit. Maybe they got injured, had to heal up before they could continue. There's a lot of things that can actually impact each individual. But they're going south, and they aggregate, and then finally you get down into like Veracruz, Mexico, and you have days there where there's 150,000 birds in a single day. And then they pass through Costa Rica and Panama, and you have counts there that are in the hundreds of thousands in a day. As they head out and they fan out, once they get into South America and get into the rainforest, they fan out. They find food for the wintertime, and then when February and March starts coming, you watch, and here come the numbers. People start counting them, and they watch all these birds, and they start in these big mass numbers and get going. And then as they get north, they kind of split and divide. And so some of them go up the eastern seaboard, and some of them go up through the Appalachians. Some of them come up through the Mississippi River Valley. We even see birds that are traveling kind of on the western fringe of, maybe I should say the eastern fringe of the Great Plains, where the forest and the prairie are kind of interfacing, and they're migrating along those lines. But they're making, again, individual decisions, but not in a vacuum, because a lot of times they are kind of following. And those young birds...
Individuals who are influenced.
Correct. Young birds are, never having gone north before, never having mated before, are going to find their way north to where they need to be, to the habitat they need to be, to find a mate they've never met on a territory they've never seen, and they have to navigate all of that.
Okay, so you started telling us a tale of a young hawk who was hatched here, northern North America. Do they hatch down in South America too?
Nope.
No.
Nope. Breeding is only up here.
So going south.
Yep.
Is this constant move, and you're saying the light is triggering them, the amount of available light. When they get to when they cross the equator and go further south, is that light situation amplified?
So they have the inverse of us, right?
Yeah.
So you end up with, birds that are in the southern hemisphere, they also retreat. If we think of the Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn, right between there. So you have birds that are north of what's the northern one? Cancer, right? North of the Tropic of Cancer, and they migrate down back into that tropical zone. And at the same time, the birds that are in the tropical zone that are supposed to nest in southern South America, like Falkland Islands, they're migrating south because that's their spring.
So there's different species that breed in the south and then migrate north?
Yep. And then there's other ones that breed they breed like in the South America, pampas of Argentina, for example, and then they retreat to the tropics for the wintertime. And then you have other birds that just live in the tropics all year round.
Does the migration coincide?
Yeah, so those birds, this is spring down there. So this is early spring.
So every year, is there like this rush hour, like this massive sort of overlap?
Well, they're not crossing though. They're at the same time that our birds are going south, the birds that are in the tropics that nest in southern Argentina are also going south. So they're kind of shifting across that equator, right?
So everybody's moving in the same direction?
In theory.
It's like
one
vacates an area and gets filled in with another set?
Right.
Wow.
And there's always overlap there too. But yes, these birds, I always think of spring is kind of like, in the bird world, I always think about spring is when the tropics exhale. It's like they breathe out all these birds that come north. So you've got...
You're saying North American spring.
North American spring, yeah. When it's the tropics are exhaling, they have all these individuals that have been down in, and our birds here in Minnesota, they have been in as far south as Argentina, maybe even the tip of Argentina over the wintertime. And they are now migrating north. And so we end up with all these species that start coming up to take advantage of the summer season. The summer season, which is when we have abundance. We have more energy being captured by the plants, which means that it's more available for the animals, which means there's abundant insects and small mammals and things for our raptors to eat.
All of that triggers on the sunlight.
All that triggers on the sunlight. So when you have this abundance of food, you've got birds that are basically taking advantage of the abundance of food to breed. But then as we head into fall here, none of these birds are really thinking about breeding. They're not looking for a mate. They might not even be traveling with their mate. Some species kind of stick together with their family groups, like geese. You see flocks of geese. It's normally like family groups. But you have others that are, they might be just traveling solo and traveling with other birds to just get to where they need to be. So they're just kind of heading south. They're following following instinct, following prevailing winds, adjusting to conditions. And there's no hard and fast rule. Like if you look at how these birds migrate, it's not like they just go straight south. Because if the birds in Alaska went straight south, they'd end up in the Pacific.
Sure.
So they actually are migrating
They have a target.
southeast.
They have a target that's south, but their pathway has to consider the day.
Correct.
Where
And-
am I today? And I got to somehow find out
And what are
how
the
to get
conditions
down there.
today?
Hmm.
So this broad-winged hawk that we just saw go by is at half the height that I oftentimes see them at.
Wow.
They
I
are,
can't imagine seeing something higher.
well, and on a blue sky day like today, it's kind of tricky.
Ah.
But there are birds sometimes that are traveling, 6,000, 8,000 feet up in the air, and finding them is
Why is a blue sky day tricky?
because there's no white clouds to give us a real strong contrast. If you have white clouds, it's like when you see a string of broadwings going by and they're just these little pinpricks, you can't make them out unless you see it against that white cloud. So we kind of like a blue sky day it's just a nightmare because you have to basically spend a lot of time just kind of looking at the sky and hoping you're going to find something.
Kind of scanning infinity
Yep.
for little dots.
For little dots, which are not contrasted very well. So there's tricks.
Not
but
long ago, I learned that there was a group of American painters called the Hudson River School. And they're known for landscape painting.
Okay.
I've known
Based
about,
out of New York?
I've known about that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's the location. But the new information comes to me from Gene Veith. Gene Edward Veith writes about them, calls them painters of faith. And they're making these landscapes of America, and one of their key symbols is the sky. They believe that when you look at the sky, you have direct access to infinity. So for them, looking out at the landscape is sort of entering God's presence. It's like you enter the throne room, you look up there, and in the natural world, they see that's the portal. So they will often have this very distant view where you see these layers of mountains going off into the distance, and they're receding in color, and the sky will often be this just brilliant show.
I was going to say, is it the dominant feature?
A lot of times.
Okay.
Not always. You could say 50-50 in some cases.
Okay.
But some of their skies will take 3/4 of the canvas.
Yeah.
So just looking into infinity triggered that thought, and we had a liberal arts moment right here.
Yeah.
Facilitated by Gene Edward Veith. Thanks, man.
I've not read him.
Oh.
Not enough time.
Well, isn't it like that?
Yeah.
Not enough time.
That's why I have a eternal retirement plan.
Don't we all?
Yeah, that's the goal. I just figured here's
Ooh, who's that?
this is a broadwing, isn't it? Nope, it's a red tail.
Up close.
Yeah, that's probably one of the local birds. So he's just going north. He's just.
Yeah, don't mind him.
He looks like he's got something on his mind, like somebody wandered into his territory and we can't see it. It's over there behind the trees somewhere, but somebody wandered
Security
into his
detail.
territory and he's feeling the need to provide an escort.
Oh.
Or, he could be saying, oh, Junior's back in my territory. He was supposed to have left last week. I better go and express my will as a landlord.
You don't count that.
Nope.
What you're doing is recording migration.
Correct. Yep. And
You're not
sometimes
just counting what you see.
correct. Sometimes it is confusing. Like we'll have turkey vultures that'll come by and they drift by and you go, oh yeah, here we go. Here's a turkey vulture and we'll count it. And then 30 seconds later, for whatever reason, turns around and turns into what we call a vulture turkey, and he goes the opposite direction. And then it's like, well, what do? Do you count that one, or do you just kind of say, well, I'll just have to keep in mind that the next turkey vulture that goes by, I've already counted. And then what'll happen is it'll go back north, it'll spin around a little bit, and then it'll come by again. Vultures follow their noses.
So let's say it's a big day.
Big day.
Right? You've got
Awesome day.
I mean, you're looking for that big day. What kind of numbers are you expecting?
We always think a big day here at the Bethany Hawkwatch is 1,000 birds.
Okay, now that's my leading question. The next question is, how do you manage that information? If there's 1,000 pinpricks up in the sky coming by, how do you deal with the speed of that, and then also separating the species?
Okay, that's a twofold question. So we do have hand clickers, which we use. The biggest single flock that we've had was over 1,600 birds. So that was a good day. I think we had over 3,000 birds that day. And
Wait,
that's kind of
so you just said two numbers. You said 1,600 and 3,000.
Yeah. So a lot of times when I'm looking for broadwings, they don't always travel in giant flocks like 1,600. You might be dealing with a group of 30, group of 20. Here's some barn swallows. And so they come in manageable packets, we'll call it. But one of the things, as you saw with that broadwing, you almost have some time. They're going to thermal. And when they're spinning is not when you count them.
That would be hard.
That would be very hard. How do you track
How do you know which
a bunch
one
of
you've already
individuals
counted?
circling around, right? So what we do, and broadwings are the ones that really travel in these big groups. What we do is we wait for them to peel off. And so they ride the elevator to the top, and then when they peel off, we just basically start, okay, they're peeling off, click, 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 click. And the secret is, don't keep the numbers in your head. Don't try and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because you get lost and you forget which numbers, and you're not paying attention. Just click away.
So it's just direct, eye to thumb.
Eye to thumb. I just pretend like I'm shooting them. Bang, 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 bang. Don't worry about the number. I just basically, sometimes I'm just kind of pointing it at it and going with it. But when they
so you've got it in your vision, that helps you know, like, I got that one, I got that one, I got that one.
Yep. And sometimes I know we undercount. That group of 1,600 could have been 2,500.
And you undercount because it happens fast.
Because it happens fast, and you do the best that you can. And one of the other things that we sometimes do as well, when you have big groups like that, sometimes you do this guesstimate thing where you basically say, okay, I just counted 50. How many groups of that do I have over my head? And so if you count off 50 and then you go, okay, there's like 3 pieces that size, that means I've got 150 birds. And that's a reasonable estimate. So places
you get
that have
used to what 50 looks like.
Yeah. Or you count off 50 and then you say, okay, now how many of those do I have going back? Now that's kind of hard to do sometimes, because when you're spotting birds that are 6,000 feet up, and you're like on a pinprick, and like you need binoculars to actually see them, then you have a hard time actually seeing the whole group. Like if you take your binoculars off, you can't see them. If you put your binoculars up, you only see a part. So that kind of, there are some problems, admittedly. But a lot of times, and like I said, I kind of
every tractor has the same problem, right?
Yeah.
All of these stations, you're part of a larger network.
And we are not one of the biggest. We're what we call medium size. Because there are some counts, like we average about 7,000. There are some count sites that might have only 3,000. But we're a weird spot too, in that the count site up in Duluth, these birds don't want to go over Cold Lake Superior, so they're running right against the ridge. And that's Hawk Ridge. And so they just count the hawks as they're going by.
Kind of funnels them into a...
Funnels them. It's a concentration point. So when there's a northwest wind, pushes all the birds up against the lake, and they don't want to go over the lake. So what happens is, if you imagine Grand Marais to Duluth, those birds don't want to cross the water. And so what they do is they start piling up, and then they come right down along the shoreline. So Hawk Ridge counts those birds, and they have that concentration point. We don't have anything like that.
When did this practice begin?
Counting hawks in general?
Yeah. This network, this system.
The network's only been around for maybe 15 years? Well, okay, the electronic version of this has probably been around for like 10 to 15 years. There's been a bunch of paper stuff. Did you see that bird that came in? Oh, you had your racks up. It almost looked like maybe a vireo or something just flew into the tree right over our head.
I've been watching these dragonflies.
Yeah, those are a lot of black saddlebags today. You can kind of see where they're called saddlebags. There's hummingbirds zipping through too.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we only count the hawks, but we appreciate all the other stuff. You know, that's kind of how it works. But you know, a lot of the hawk counting sites started out as places where farmers would go out and shoot hawks.
Yeah, it just went below the tree line.
Of course. Was it a pretty low bird?
Pretty low.
Well, the crows are sounding off like they recognized the bird, and it could have just been the local redtail hunting.
That's what I'm thinking.
You
Okay.
hear evidence of it.
Yeah. They kind of look, you know, you can see it in the names of chicken hawk. You know, if you ever hear the chicken hawk. You know, hawks are bad. They kill things that we might otherwise use to feed ourselves. You know, chickens or
It's like a fox.
things like So they found these places where there were hawks that were migrating in big distances, and they would show up with their shotguns and shoot them.
Yeah.
And you know, you could eat them too.
So you got a different motive for the same kind of gathering point.
Correct. So what happened is people, and I don't remember what time, 50s, 60s, somewhere in there, people started showing up at these sites and like bird watchers, and if they could stomach the murder, killing of all the birds, if they could stomach that, they could actually get a count, and they were counting alongside these gunners.
Interesting.
And then what happened is eventually, now there's protection. There's the Migratory Species Act, and so these hawks are protected. You can't shoot them. Here in the United States, there's all these laws that now protect them. So
What's
now
the
it's all
rationale
counting.
for that protection?
Maybe we would consider it that man without regulation tends to overharvest.
Sure. So same reason why we have limits on deer hunting
And fish and everything else.
Yeah.
So at some point, a lot of migratory birds were considered off limits for shooting. So we have migratory birds that we hunt, like geese and ducks. Sandhill cranes, you can now do that too. Crows, there's a crow season, mourning dove.
There's a limit.
There's a season and there's a limit. And they do that because they don't want to affect those populations, because there's a long history of humans taking advantage of abundance and making it scarce.
Bison.
Passenger pigeons,
Yeah. Passenger pigeons.
wiped out almost entirely by the appetite of man.
Interesting.
And the, you know, it's not just the hunger, but also the profitability of capturing them. I mean, we're talking about passenger pigeons used to, there's accounts of people sitting up on a bluff watching a flock of passenger pigeons pass over that extended from one end of the horizon to the other for the entire day. It was an abundant bird. And they were a gregarious bird. They hung out with other passenger pigeons. And it is interesting, but their detriment, their ultimate collapse, I mean, it was multifaceted. Hunting was the major means by which, because they would roost in these big flocks, and so you'd end up with these hunters that would show up, fire their shotguns into the air, and harvest all the pigeons that were sitting in the tree. So they would over harvest. And then the other thing that happened is when you ended up with fewer and fewer individuals, if you're gregarious, if you like to travel in large flocks and you don't have that, in some sense there's a culture, a community, a uncomfortability in being a solo bird or being in a small group.
They got lonely.
I think there's some of that in there too. And then the other component is, at the same time, we accidentally introduced the chestnut blight, which knocked out a lot of the American chestnut trees. And it was a big dove that particularly liked to eat chestnuts. They ate nuts. And losing food source while losing compatriots, while losing your life, and by 14, 16, somewhere in there, the last one, Martha, died in the Cincinnati Zoo. Gone.
Wow.
And yeah, we did the same thing to bison too, right? Like, it's in abundance, so what did they do? They went out and they the steaks didn't keep, but the pelts did, so they shot the bison, took the pelt, left everything to rot. And there's
profit.
Because there's profit. You know,
Just dangling out there.
it's just dangling. Yep. I mean, passenger pigeons were shot to feed the people in Chicago.
Sure.
But at no point did anyone say, you know what? Have you ever noticed that we've got fewer doves? Maybe we should do something.
Yeah.
Maybe we should show some restraint. And I think our default setting is actually, let's make hay while the sun shines. Let's, while there is an abundant, I should get mine.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't, that other person will. And why, that means they're going to be gone anyway. So I might as well get my share.
Yeah.
And that's a very human reaction to that sort of thing.
Interesting.
You putting weather data in, Axel? Okay, thank you.
I've often thought about the contrast between appetite and appreciation. Appetite as more than just like I'm hungry.
Consumption.
Yeah, I desire this for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And appreciation is just like, wow, look at that. That's so incredible. You just allow it to be what it is and marvel at it.
But we also have within us this danger of condemning either one.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Like there is this balance to those extremes. We could say the extremes are never hurt anything. You could end up into the Buddhist mindset of don't step on an ant.
Yeah.
Don't take any life whatsoever. We could totally guilt ourselves into things. People tend to, especially in these days, people tend to also take humans out of the environment and say humans are what's wrong in the environment. The environment is only pure and clean if we don't have people, which is erroneous as well. People are part of that community. People are a part of that environmental thing. So, but at the same time, overconsumption, or these days I would say there's a lot of recreation these days. I think is more based on consumption. It is about what.
Yeah, I just saw that on Facebook.
What fish we can pull out of the lake, or what we can hunt, and there are certainly people who are across that spectrum, but we tend to kind of focus on that sort of thing. Recreation, I think, sometimes instead of
function.
Yeah, it ends up becoming, I spend money to do this thing, and I consume it, or I destroy the thing that I wish to consume as I'm doing the thing that I like to do. And trying to find that balance is, I think, difficult for people. But sometimes I think we just have kind of thoughtless consumption too. And I'm not necessarily against boating, but it's the mindset of, I want to go up to the North Woods. Well, what do you do in the North Woods? Well, there's a lot of different things that you can do in the North Woods. You can hike, you can camp, you could go canoeing, you could go all these places. But I think that like one of the things that I see as a dominant trend is I put a small 4x4 vehicle on a trailer and hook it up to my truck, and I take it up there, and then I drive around in the woods all day, which means that they don't actually see the woods. They don't actually know the woods better. They don't see more wildlife or understand more wildlife or have that calming effect. Instead, the thing that they do all day, drive in rush hour traffic, they go into the woods and they do the same thing.
Sure.
And that's the fun thing. It
feels familiar, right? There's an accessibility to that, but maybe everything has a sacrifice. You do one thing and you're not doing another thing.
Correct.
So if you don't have that means of transport, then maybe you don't get as far, you don't carry as much stuff, right? You justify like, well, I'll cover more ground and I've got my stuff with me.
And don't take it as I'm trying to villainize, but I also think that like somewhere in there, like I think in God's creation there is this restorative element, and there's a lot of studies and everything out there, and there's even like nature networks that are set up to try and do more research to find out what's really going on. I even learned a phrase when was that? Last fall or something like that. You ever heard of forest bathing?
I have. This is a Japanese concept.
Yeah. You go out in the woods and you let the environment and everything be the thing that kind of, hey there, be the thing that comes and stores you and restores you. And I do think that is very true. But I also think that if you're driving a noisy 4-cylinder engine vehicle bouncing around on trails, you're blocking it out.
You know, there's a valid question that comes with the idea of progress. A device comes out that promises to make your life better, and then you adopt it, and I think afterwards you have to ask, are we better? Did this help us? You know, and the lens might be, well, there's more productivity, right? But how's the human? How's the human doing in that situation? Maybe they're not working as hard, and you think that's a good thing.
Yep, they have more time for leisure.
Yeah, but
that's been held up as the product of how we have evolved as a society. Is we have more time for leisure.
But then, what's the nature of work? You know,
but what's the nature of leisure?
Do we become slaves to the machines that supposedly free us?
Well, and I think younger generations are kind of picking up on the pattern, maybe even in their subconscious, and, well, what's it all about? You're telling me that, like, what my life is, welcome to adulthood, and what I get is a job that I don't necessarily like, and I don't really have a purpose with what I'm doing, and I'm basically living for leisure. I'm living for...
It's like the Jetsons button-pushing kind of job, you know?
Right.
You go to work and you kick your feet up and you push a button every 2 hours.
And how much are we willing to allow artificial intelligence to take over our own intelligence for some of these things? Like, we've already outsourced customer service and things like that to an AI.
It's so frustrating.
And so, you know, we think, oh, it's better. Why is it better? Because it's cheaper. Okay, so basically you're saying the end product, our whole goal is to run things more efficiently at a lower cost because there's greater profits for the company. That's very empty. Like, if all it is monetary gain, whether it's the employees or the employer, the company as a whole, the stockholders or whatever, that seems to have become the only thing. And I think there's some issues with that. I think that's a poorer experience. When what we do is we prioritize profits over the other aspects of your humanity, we lose some of our humanity. And I think that's one of the things that I think is happening. Have you ever read a book called, I don't remember the author because I don't remember names unless they're in Latin and involve spiders or birds. But the book title is called Guinness and Gods.
No.
It talks about, I'm just watching, get swallows that are going overhead here. And so if I see swallows in the air, then that tells me, well, maybe there's a microburst, maybe there's a small air mass that's coming, and I can't see it, but those birds saw it, and they're riding it, so there might be something behind it.
Oh, sure enough. What's that?
I gotta wait for it to get clear of the maple again.
There it is.
It's a Broadwing. There's subtle visual cues.
Yeah.
So,
like an opening act.
Yeah. We just, and notice that bird's doing the same one that other one did, where he's found a nice warm spot over Old Main now.
Going up the elevator.
And he's going up the elevator.
Okay, so you were saying this book.
I think it's God and Guinness.
Okay.
It talks
In
about...
or and?
And.
And. God and Guinness.
Yeah. And it's all about the company, the Guinness Brewing Company.
Oh, okay.
And their mindset about what they were doing. And one of the first companies to provide housing for its employees, to give them a beer allowance.
That sounds like a monastery.
Maybe.
Like,
but
which one's first? Is it employee or is it, or
right? So
relationship is slightly different.
Right. So, but I think like those are. It was the mindset of not only do we want to make a great product, but we also want to make. we want to improve the lives of the people that we interact with.
Sure.
And to me, that's such a noble purpose. And I can't speak to Guinness as it is as a modern company. But I read that, I think, as part of a book club for my church. And it was just really interesting. I just never really thought about that before. But I guess obviously it stuck with me because I remember the book name, even if I don't remember the author. But I think, that's what people value. Okay, there's a bunch of swallows underneath him too.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm just trying to figure out what he's doing. So the swallows are kind of zipping around. They don't really have anything to worry about. Like, this hawk isn't going to hunt them. He doesn't have the maneuverability.
For a swallow.
For a swallow.
Yeah.
Swallows, they have a healthy respect. Now, if a merlin came through, that's a small falcon that specializes in hunting small birds. You will see a very different behavior that comes out of the swallows at that point. Yeah. Then it will be, I need to get above the merlin.
It's like a dogfight.
Yep, it's a dogfight.
Get the high ground.
Get the high ground, and you'll see, like, they'll part ways and they'll take erratic motions, and what they'll do is they'll try and get above the merlin, because the merlin will dive down on them from height, and will pick them off in flight. They're very fast, very maneuverable. Yeah, there's a reason why there's the nickname Merlin. It's based on a falcon.
Interesting.
Yep. So
your story about God and Guinness makes me think about something I just read about some very successful Japanese corporations, Sony, Honda, and others, have this practice of hiring their retiring employees to give them a full income to come in and do nothing, which seems like a really bad idea from kind of a Western
straight up
perspective.
economics.
Yeah.
But they'll offset by?
Well, so the result is they train in fewer people because fewer people leave because they know they understand. Stay. Yeah, if they stay, that's waiting for them, and also it implies this kind of respect for your years of work. And then you get this. They call it the window office. You get these people just sitting by the window, and they're available for mentorship. The culture kind of
valuing the wisdom of years.
Yeah, and it just helps the young ones to understand how it goes.
Northbound vulture. Yeah, see, that broadwing's drifted north too. I don't know what's going on. But there's kind of like a stronger south push I'm feeling here too, so. Yeah, so that's a vulture turkey.
Oh, going the wrong way.
Going the wrong way. So
yeah.
Turkey vultures go the right way, vulture turkeys go the other way.
Learning the jargon.
Yep. We have our own little lexicon.
Well, the tree, like the tree references are really helpful.
Yep.
You have to be able to map the sky somehow.
Yep.
So we can know where to look quickly.
It's also nice when a plane flies by. Gives you like sort of a moving reference point. Past.
Well, and if there's clouds too, that also helps when you're trying to get people to things.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean,
go to the one that looks like Bart Simpson, that sort of thing.
Ooh.
Exactly. Then you hope that somebody actually interprets clouds the way that you do, I'm telling you, it's a cow. No, it's a crocodile, and they don't get into those arguments and forget about counting the birds.
Chad, how long have you been doing this?
How long have I been counting hawks?
Yeah.
We started, I always tell people that I noticed the phenomenon in 2003.
The phenomenon of
raptor migration here, yes.
2003.
2003.
How long had you been here?
I started in January of 2000.
Okay.
So it was a Broadwing day, and so in September I was walking back from chapel, and I looked up and there was a kettle of 30 Broadwing hawks going over. And
is that something that you had experience with prior?
I got into birds when I was 14 and really got into birds. I was out of control into birds. And so by the time I was in college, I had picked up a book during the summer after my freshman year in college called Season at the Point. And it was written, I don't remember the name of the author, of course, but it's all about the birds and bird watchers of Cape May, New Jersey, which is a big preserve and everything, and they count hawks there. And so I started, it was just a great read. It was just really interesting, and made me think about hawk watching, and then picked up some, there's a couple books that are out now on raptor identification. One of them is called Hawks in Flight, which is just awesome. And I had picked up a copy of one of those. And so in college, in my latter years there, in the fall on a good day, sometimes I would travel up to the Concordia University in Mequon campus, which overlooks Lake Michigan. And I would sit up on their bluff and watch hawks go by. And so I had done
kind of narrowing factor between the lake.
Yep, and northwest winds, and so northwest winds was just kind of fixed in my mind, and so I wasn't necessarily looking for hawks when I started. It just was one of those things where I'm like, hey, there's a bunch of broadwings going over. I'm like, why would they be here? And I started thinking, oh, I suppose the river bluff. I mean, it's not Lake Michigan, but it's a river bluff. Maybe they're utilizing that. So I just started paying attention and started counting a few birds, and I don't think we saw more than a couple hundred. It was less than 1,000 for several years. And I was only out here on northwest winds when I thought it might be favorable, and really the broadwing window was the part that was exciting to me because, they come by in big groups. But I noticed that there were red tails moving too in October, and, it got to November and December, and I really wasn't worrying about it. And then 2004, I thought, well, maybe I should make a little bit more concerted effort, and so I did, and counted some, and I got some students to come out and count with me some, and we did that the next year, and the next year after that, and eventually, I actually had a pretty good cohort of students who were interested in it, and so I said, hey, you guys have any interest in forming like a student group? And so we formed our own club, and we counted hawks, and I had made connections with somebody who bands them up in the North Shore, and I'd take them up there to band hawks one weekend. So it kind of gained its own life, but as we kept increasing the number of hours, I kept putting out a target for them. And we got to 90 hours, and that just about killed all of us, and that's just for a season. And so...
Interesting. I've never known about this hours idea. So when I walk by, there's often somebody out here.
Correct.
You have to manage,
make
sure we've got somebody on.
Well, it's all volunteer. So I don't, there are, if you go to Hawk Ridge, there's somebody who is a paid counter up there, and they start at whenever the sun comes up. They start then, and they go until the sun goes down. Sure, and they get paid.
But regardless of pay, how many people are you working with, and how many hours are you working with?
I went from 93 hours that one year with the students, where I said it nearly killed us, because I got class, students in class. Like, we don't have time to be out here necessarily counting. And so I've made an appeal to the local birding community, and I got Jim Amundsen, who you see sitting out here all the time, and our hours went from 93 to 400.
Wow. With one guy?
With one guy.
What?
His level of commitment was incredible to me, because he showed up and said, hey, I'm interested in helping out. And I said, great. He says, what times do you think you need me? And I said, well, I have labs on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. Is there any chance that you can cover those? And he said, sure. He said, what time do the hawks start flying? I said, well, normally I don't normally start stuff until like 9 o'clock. I said, sometimes I'll see birds flying at 8:30, but most times it's like 9 o'clock. He showed up next day at 9 o'clock. He was here 9 until 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He comes and goes as he wants to. And so, we went from 93 to 400, which I cannot tell you how much we learned just by him doing that. Because on a day like today, I would not be out here now. Normally, like before that time, wind's out of the south. There shouldn't be any, in my mind at that time, I had blinders on, and I was just thinking, the winds are not out of the northwest. The birds are not migrating.
Just for our listeners, it's late morning.
Right. Well, and the south winds. Birds don't migrate on south winds. That's my headspace at that point. But when he came, he started sitting out here no matter what. And suddenly we started realizing that these broadwings, the ones that were like, well, how come we got 600 this year, and then the next year we only got like 150? Like, what is our issue there? And what we discovered is, if you're in the wing window, it does not matter which direction the wind is coming from. The birds are migrating regardless. It's just their strategy that they use is different. And so
it's not
us,
about the
me
weather of the day.
standing out here right now is in the eternal hope, since we're in the wing window, that regardless of the fact that the winds are out of the south, which is not necessarily conducive to migration or for us seeing birds here, and just to give you a reference point, we have, Axel, how many raptors we have today here? Like 6? Half a dozen? 7?
Yeah, 5, 6.
5, 6 of 3 species, right? 4 species. Jim at the other site, he's actually covering the other site today because my other volunteer takes his wife bowling.
Where's the other site?
Over at Land of Memories Park.
Okay.
He has over 360 today.
Today.
It's almost all turkey vultures. He had a big flock of 170 that lifted off at 9 o'clock this morning. And then since then, the last time I heard from him, he was having strings of birds that were coming down over the bluff on the North Mankato side of the river valley and going through.
You've used the term wing window. Can you just give us a definition? What do you mean by that?
So if we take all the 20 plus years of data that we have at the Bethany Hawkwatch, and if I distill that down and I say, okay, 50% of our broadwings, half, they go through in a span of 10 days. So if we had 2,000 birds, 1,000 of those would go through in that window.
You look at your observations and you see there's a pattern.
Correct.
Over time.
So we know that between September
There's gonna
15th,
be a week and a half where it's big.
between September 15th and September 25th, that's what we affectionately call the wing window. Now, do the birds hit
Now
that?
We're in it.
We're in it.
We've just entered it.
This is why I'm standing out here on what I would call a lousy day to be standing out here, because
in the next 10 days, something's
it's a nice
gonna
high vulture
happen.
there.
Something's going to happen.
Correct. And if I'm in my office, I could miss 1,000 birds going over my head.
And by the time somebody lets you know, it's gone.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or it's uncounted. So I'm standing out here with the hope, not necessarily the expectation, because it's the south wind, but with the hope that there is a chance that I might actually see. Because normally by this time of year, since we're in the wing window, normally at this time of year, I've even seen a couple of kettles of like maybe 10 broadwings. Haven't seen that this year. And we don't have
Your
the
experience tells you it's coming.
it's coming. Yeah. It's that. I think we had 1 year since 2005 where we've had less than 1,000 broadwings. So I know that those birds are coming, and it's just a question of when and where. And we've had days here where we've had nothing. I go home, and all of a sudden, here's 600 birds going over my house, which is a block from campus. We don't have control over it. I had days early on when I would count, I would see 700 birds go over, and I'd think, well, there went all the broadwings for the day. And I would go eat lunch, and I'd come back, and there's another 700 going over, and I go, oh shoot, why did I go to lunch? How many did I miss while I was at lunch? And so that's what we're doing.
So what are the stakes here? Who else is looking at this data, and how broad is the network?
Okay, so the network is all of North America. There are count sites in Nevada, California. Most count sites are in the eastern part of the United States, where a lot of the modern hawk watching has gone. In Minnesota, there's only 2 count sites. There's us, and there's Hawk Ridge. In the spring, they count from a different site, so they don't call themselves Hawk Ridge. They call themselves the West Skyline Hawk Count or something like that. But we're the only ones in Minnesota that actually record this. In Iowa, to our south, there's 2. There's one in the western part of the state called Hitchcock, and we kind of watch what they do because they're in the plains like us. And then the other one is Grammar Grove, which is about the center of the state. And that one's maybe 1,000 birds, 2,000 birds sometimes tops. So that's a smaller one. Whereas Hitchcock and us, we kind of consider ourselves about the same size, but we've discovered that we probably have higher variability in our numbers than they do. So we've ranged from 4,000 to 19,000, whereas they tend to kind of come in around 7 about every year.
What's with the bucket hat?
I started wearing colorful bucket hats when I was a tour driver in Denali National Park. And
Wow.
it maybe predates that just a little bit.
Tell us, where's Denali?
Denali is in central Alaska.
Okay.
So, and it maybe predates that. I needed a hat. I was going down to the Caribbean in college, and I needed something. I have short hair, bordering on no hair at this point, but I have short hair. Thank you for counting. Student volunteer, right? So I needed a hat. I don't like baseball hats. My dad had an old 1960s green and yellow paisley bucket hat, and that's what I took on that trip. And I ended up liking it. It was kind of comfortable, kept my head from getting burned. Well, I took it to Denali National Park when I was a tour driver, and what I came to realize is it was my tool by which I made sure I identified the driver amongst the mass of 52 people.
Oh, sure.
It's the guy with the very unique hat. Nobody else has got this hat, right?
A tour guide might hold a flag or something for that purpose.
Yep, and
It makes you findable.
Yep, and I used it also as something that was it was a connection between me and my passengers, the people who were on my tour as well. I would even make fun of my hat because I would always have instructions, in case, we need to have somebody who is going to grab the fire extinguisher, and we need, I'd have to assign different jobs to people. And I'd always just say, my hands are going to be busy because I got to save my hat, and they would all laugh, and it'd be like instantly you have just a little connection. Yeah. With the people. They start to think like, okay, who is this guy? What is he doing? And they realize that this might actually be fun because they've been sitting a lot. They sit on a train, then they sit on a bus, then they sit on a train. They've been sitting a lot. And so this has to be one of those sitting moments where it's something positive. And so I kind of carried it over from that into whenever I lead bird walks, whenever I'm doing other things, I have that colorful hat. So I have a banana hat, and I have this one, and then I probably will have to get another one in the near future because my hats are starting to fade.
I was going to ask how many are in the repertoire?
I've gone through 4.
Currently 2?
Yeah, I currently have 2. You're
wearing turtles today?
I'm wearing turtles today.
You have bananas?
I have bananas at home.
Okay.
And the banana one has gotten a little bit faded and worn, and probably needs to be replaced.
Do you know what size you need?
I have no idea. I just know I have a big head. But the nice thing is, bucket hats, generally, you just go on and it's like a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm making a suggestion here to readers. Donate to the bucket hat cause.
I don't need bucket hats, but I gotta give you my mic here.
Well, it's not about need. Thank you very much for talking with me. I find this immensely interesting.
I feel like our conversation isn't done, so you come back anytime.
Well, we'll see what happens.